change history. It will 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 change history. That will be the most beautiful day.
All right, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for stopping by tonight, for tuning in to our Ukraine War Report for day 140. The current date is July 13th, 2022. It's now the 14th in Ukraine, so I should say good morning, Ukraine, and good morning to everybody in Europe, to those of you tuning in from the Eastern Hemisphere. For those of you here in the United States and in the Americas, currently about 8:04 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be getting everybody caught up on the most recent events in the war, in this very bloody and ongoing conflict. For about the past 12 to 24 hours, we'll get everybody caught up. If you haven't seen them already, we just uploaded our Monday report to the YouTube channel, as well as yesterday's report to the YouTube channel. It's day 138 and day 139. Day 138's report was also a recap of the entire past week of events that have occurred. So if you're looking to get caught up before coming and watching this report, I highly recommend you guys go check out those reports. They're live up on the channel now, and you guys can get a really good idea of where we're at now and kind of build some context. Again, we're going to go through our primary headlines as usual first, and kind of get all the key topics out of the way. And then we'll hop over into our community aggregated reporting from our Discord server over at discord.gg/Nemico from our Intel, our hardworking Intel analysts over there, which every day, I would say every hour on the hour, are posting very valuable community aggregated reports over there in that channel. So if you'd like to go check those out, you can find those in the Situation Room over on the Discord server. Then, of course, we'll end off the night by going through our open source reporting from sources like Live UA Map, amongst a few others. Before we get into it, if you haven't already, hit that like button. It's the best way to get this information out to more people, get the algorithm's attention. As usual, we have to cater to the algorithm here on YouTube. And if you're following along on Twitch, thank you guys so much for stopping by tonight. Always nice to have that crowd over there following along on our Twitch channel. If you haven't, if you like this stream, share this stream. It's the best way, again, to get that information out to more people. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Best way to get notified when new videos or streams go live. I know quite a few of you aren't getting notifications, and I'm actually going to be talking to YouTube about that, and hopefully we'll be able to get that taken care of. I noticed a few of you are having some buffering issues tonight in the chat. It seems like totally random. One night we're streaming in 1440 or 4K, and then the next night, I believe it's a restream problem. However, I haven't been able to pin it down yet. However, some nights just the buffering occurs, and sometimes it clears up halfway through the stream, or sometimes it clears up before we even start. It looked like it cleared up there for a little bit, but it seems a few of you are still having some issues. If you pause the stream and wait maybe a minute or two and then press play, it should clear up those issues, or possibly refreshing the page might clear up those issues as well. If not, if you're still having those issues, you can always catch the report when it's uploaded to the YouTube channel over at youtube.com/Nemico Network. It seems to be something that completely random. We'll have a whole week of reports just fine, 4K, 1440, everything's fine, and then all of a sudden one day we have some buffering issues. So again, I'm going to be talking to Restream, and hopefully we'll be able to get those issues pinned down. Again, though, I thank you guys for tuning in and bearing with us this evening. We're going to get right into it. We're going to be kind of going first through our primary headlines as usual. Of course, the big stories right now are two things. Of course, the ongoing battles in the east of the country in the Donbass, which has been the primary story for the past few months or so. And then, of course, we have Ukraine's counteroffensives, which they are launching in the south of the country near Kherson. So again, I have a poll going tonight in the live chat. As usual, I've been trying to keep up with these polls. Tonight's poll is currently live on the YouTube live chat. If you guys want to go cast your vote in that poll, tonight's poll question is: do you think the worst fighting has yet to come in Ukraine, or has it passed? So when we get over to our community aggregated news, we'll end that poll and we'll talk a little bit about the results. But if you haven't already, go ahead over there to the live chat poll and submit your vote. Without further ado, we'll get right into tonight's primary headlines. Has been a big topic, big headline story this week. Those Russian missile attacks on that residential apartment block in Chasiv Yar in eastern Ukraine. We now have an increased death toll. It's now risen to at least 47 individuals that died in that missile strike at that apartment block in Chasiv Yar. So again, the death toll, I believe, last night was 33. It's now risen to 47. So again, as the days go on, and I've talked about this many times, when we have a strike occur like this, when an event occurs like this in the fog of war, it usually takes days, if not weeks, for us to get a concrete understanding of what the casualty counts look like, etc. According to Kiev, the residential building was hit by Russian rockets fired from truck-borne systems late on Saturday evening, so over the weekend. Ukrainian emergency services initially gave a death toll of 10, but as rescue teams continued to comb through the debris, that number has rose. Again, now the number we have currently at this hour is 47 casualties, 47 dead as of this hour. Again, that might increase, and we'll bring you an update on that with tomorrow's report. As you might have seen in the title for tonight's stream, the Ukrainian missiles, especially these HIMARS missile systems, continue to wreak havoc on the Russian ammo depots, the Russian weapons caches, etc. At least 7 people were killed by a Ukrainian missile strike, reportedly killed, I should say, by a Ukrainian missile strike on a large ammunition store in the town of Novohakovka in Russian-occupied Kherson. And a strike attributed to recently acquired U.S. weapons, mainly speaking to those HIMARS rocket systems. The explosion hit a warehouse close to a key railway line and a dam on the Dnieper River. Footage on social media showed a large explosion lighting up the night sky, burning ammunition and billowing smoke. You can see debris being spewed from that ammunition cache as well. In fact, we have a picture of that in our thumbnail. For the past few days, we had some pictures of those ammunition depot strikes. I believe it was actually Day 138, Day 138's video that had a picture of that strike on it, of that just the massive explosion that was spewing munitions and just all over the place. Again, when the Ukrainian missiles struck that ammunition store in Novohakovka. Russian artillery and rockets pounded the Ukrainian town of Bakhmut overnight into Wednesday morning. I spoke a little bit about that in last night's report. That's when that conflict was really, that bombardment was starting, and again, it continued overnight into Wednesday morning. Donetsk Governor Pavlo Krylenko said Russian forces were constantly shelling the entire free territory of the Donetsk region, with Bakhmut district suffering the most bombardment over about the past 24 hours. The Russian Ministry of Defense has said it caused a large loss to Ukrainian forces in the last 24 hours, claiming to have killed at least 425 service personnel and shot down 3 planes and 9 unmanned drones. Yuri Inat, a spokesperson for the Ukrainian Air Force, dismissed Russia's assertions as propaganda. Again, we've seen a lot of these press releases coming from the Russian Ministry of Defense, almost on a daily basis, saying, hey, yeah, in the past 24 hours, we killed this many Ukrainians, we downed this many planes, and with very little evidence to actually show to back up those claims. However, again, I'll reiterate, Yuri Henat, the spokesperson for the Ukrainian Air Force, has dismissed those assertions as propaganda. At least 5 people have been injured and 1 killed by Russian shelling in the region of Kharkiv. According to the daily update from the regional governor, Ole Sinabuov, he has posted to his Telegram this morning to say, quote, the terror of the civilian population on the Kharkiv region by the Russian occupiers continues at this time. Military delegations from Ukraine, Russia, and Turkey met with UN officials in Istanbul to discuss a possible deal to resume safe exports of that Ukrainian grain. It's been a hot topic over the past month or so. The four-way meeting has come as exports across the Black Sea continue to be blocked by Russian warships in that blockade there, and sea mines as well. Kiev, which were laid by Kiev in order to avert a feared amphibious assault on some of those territories along the southern coast. Ukraine's foreign minister, Dmytro Kuleba, was quoted earlier on Wednesday as saying that Kiev believed a deal was, quote, 2 steps away. Speaking more to those grain shipments, those shipments via the Danube River have increased with the reopening of the Bystry Canal. The number of foreign ships reaching Ukraine ports to help with grain exports has doubled to 16 ships within the last 24 hours. So that's some good news for getting that grain out of Ukraine and to the countries that need it the most at this time. Again, that came according to Ukraine's Deputy Infrastructure Minister, Yuri Vaskov. Ukraine has restored a long decommissioned port to facilitate the exportation of grain due to Russia's Black Sea blockade and expects to increase monthly exports to around 500,000 tons. That's nowhere near what it would be if that blockade wasn't in there, but getting some grain out is better than none. As this global food crisis continues to grow, as even us here in the West are feeling the lack of that grain, the lack of those food exports reflected onto our food prices in our local grocery stores. Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky says Russia, quote, doesn't have the courage to admit defeat. In a nationally televised address, Zelensky also mocked the Russian military's apparent reliance on aging weapons and Soviet-era tactics. Instead, the unity of his country's citizenry, combined with the strength of Ukraine's armed forces, meant the outcome of the war was, quote, certain. Again, those were his exact words direct from President Zelensky there. Russian forces will likely focus on taking several Donbass towns during the coming weeks, including Siversk and Dolna, on the approaches to Sloviansk and Kramatorsk. Again, we've reported many times Kramatorsk has been bombarded, Sloviansk has been bombarded in recent weeks and months. Again, this came according to the UK Ministry of Defence in one of their intelligence reports, again saying that they are expecting in the coming week or two here for those advances to move on to Siversk and Dolna. A quote directly from that UK Ministry of Defense report says, the urban areas of Sloviansk and Kramatorsk likely remain the principal objectives for this phase of the operation, the British intelligence report has said. North Korea has officially recognized the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic and the self-proclaimed Luhansk People's Republic, the pro-Russian occupied territories in the east of Ukraine. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea, DPRK, becomes only the third UN member state to recognize them as legitimate authorities after Russia and Syria. In response, Ukraine's foreign ministry said it has cut ties with North Korea. The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has called for an immediate halt to Russian deportations of Ukrainian citizens. Blinken accused Russia of, quote, deliberately separating Ukrainian children from their parents and abducting others from orphanages before putting them up for adoption inside of Russia. A third American national is being held captive by pro-Russian separatists in Ukraine, according to reports. Sudi Murkezi, 35, was arrested last month in Kherson, a Russian-occupied port city in southern Ukraine, where he had been living for more than 2 years. His brother Seli Murkezi said. Again, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly there, but again, it has been confirmed now that a third American national is being held captive by those pro-Russian separatists in Ukraine. The U.S. Treasury announced on Tuesday that it was sending an additional $1.7 billion, which we reported on yesterday, in economic aid to Ukraine to fund, quote, the essential services. European foreign ministers late on Monday approved £1 billion in aid, the first installment of a $9 billion rescue package agreed in May. So not only is the U.S. Treasury sending over economic aid, but European foreign ministers are also signing some packages to send over more economic aid as well. So this is aside from the lethal and defensive aid packages which are being sent over to Ukraine's military forces. The Russian President, Vladimir Putin, is set to visit Tehran next week to hold talks with the Turkish President, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The meeting comes as the U.S. has accused Iran of preparing to supply Russia with hundreds of weapons-capable drones for use in Ukraine, as we reported on earlier this week. The UN Human Rights Office said on Tuesday that more than 5,000 civilians have been killed in Ukraine since Russia invaded on the 24th of February, adding that the real death toll was probably much higher. That toll is expected to increase as the war continues. The European Union has so far frozen £13.8 billion worth of assets held by Russian oligarchs and other individuals and entities sanctioned for Moscow's war against Ukraine, the EU's top justice official said on Tuesday. Russia has claimed to have killed a significant number of foreign mercenaries fighting in Ukraine the last 3 weeks, including 23 from Britain, which again they are allegedly claiming to have killed within Ukrainian territory. Russia has launched a criminal case against one of the last opposition figures remaining in the country for allegedly spreading false information about the Russian army. His lawyer said on Tuesday, Ilya Yashin, 39, a Moscow city councilor, was sentenced to 15 days in jail last month for disobeying police. He had been set to be released in early hours of Wednesday. The appeals over death sentences of captured Aiden Aslan, Sean Pinner, and Sadun Ibrahim will be dealt within a month, as we reported on yesterday there. In a statement from Liz Truss, she said she utterly condemns the sentencing, stating, "They are prisoners of war. This is a sham judgment. Absolutely no legitimacy." We don't have any updates from our earlier reports this week on the situations there with those British nationals, which are being held captive and are facing a death sentence there in the Donetsk People's Republic. In some energy crisis news, Brazil is looking to buy as much diesel as it can from Russia, and the deals closed as recently as yesterday, the Brazilian Foreign Minister, Carlos França, said on Tuesday, without giving further details. Again, Brazil is looking to buy as much diesel as it can from Russia, so that's very interesting there. Again, there's been a large shift, especially for European countries and here in the West, as we try to diversify the fuel and where we're getting our energy imports from, as a lot of countries look to permanently move away from Russian energy and Russian fuel. Again, fuel prices have skyrocketed basically globally. I would say even here in the United States, we've felt an impact here as we've ran our gas prices round up a few times as we've given these reports and shown that people are suffering from these fuel prices, not just in Europe, not just in Europe, but here in the West as well. That about sums up our primary topic headlines for this evening. We're now going to switch over to our community aggregated news from our Discord server. Again, that's discord.gg/Nemico. Catlinburg, thank you so much for the support in the chat there with that super chat. Yeah, we do have a little bit of buffering going tonight. I believe, again, we're having some issues with Restream here. Again, nothing we can do about it this evening except keep going. You can try pausing the stream, which will let it buffer up a little bit, and then press play. You might be behind by a few minutes, but that's about the best we can do this evening. It looks like people are having those issues on both Twitch and YouTube. Again, seems to be a completely random issue that we're having there with that. Again, I think it's due to Restream. Again, we're restreaming both to YouTube and Twitch using the Restream.io service, so that could possibly be the culprit there. I'll be looking into that after tonight's live stream report. As I said earlier, some nights we're rocking 4K or 1440, no problems, and then of course all of a sudden tonight it decided to have an issue. But no worries, the news and reporting must continue, and continue we will. Firstly, with tonight's community aggregated reporting, we're going to cover our poll. I'm going to go ahead and end that poll now. 117 votes were casted in that poll tonight over on the YouTube live chat. The question tonight was, do you think the worst fighting has yet to come in Ukraine, or has it passed? An overwhelming 89% of you says the fighting will get worse. Says yes, the fighting will get worse, and only 10% of you guys say no, the worst is behind us. So again, that's kind of an overwhelming majority there that thinks the fighting is planning to get worse, or is slated to get worse here in the coming weeks and months here as this war continues on. I'll go ahead and I will post that the poll results in the Situation Room on the Discord server if anybody would like to go take a look at those poll results there. Get those posted over there now. All right, we're going to switch over again into our Situation Room here, and I'll start going through some of our community aggregated reports from this evening. Our first post tonight comes from Unstinkable, longtime poster in the Situation Room here. This comes from Flash, an account called Flash on Twitter here. Again, Unstickable says, take it with a grain of salt as there's no confirmed source on this report. It says here, Ukraine is negotiating with the United States on long-range missiles for the HIMARS MLRS, capable of hitting targets at the distance of 300 kilometers. This was announced by Fedir Vinislavsky, a member of the Parliamentary Committee on National Security and Defense. So again, they're looking to negotiate with the United States on more of those long-range HIMARS missile systems, possibly. Again, taking this report with a grain of salt, as this is a unverified Twitter source, but I wouldn't put it past them. They definitely need more of those HIMARS missile systems. They've been absolutely, extremely helpful, I would say. Absolutely a game changer for those Ukrainian forces on the ground. Our next post here comes from Kayuka, longtime power poster. This comes from Ukrainska Pravda. It talks about a week of Russian failures. Ukraine embarks on a recovery process. I'll read you a little bit here from this report. It says, last week, July 4th through 10th, the Russian war was systematically catching little fires everywhere as a result of Ukrainian army action. Ukrainian politicians recognize the effectiveness of Western long-range artillery, but Russian leaders continue to declare an invincibility and power of their army against the background of a strategic failure to prevent NATO expansion to the east and the disastrous impact of sanctions. Russian politicians focused on promoting primitive propaganda about Nazism, chemical provocations, American egocentrism, and the collective West. At the same time, the militarization of Ukraine takes place at a maximum speed involving up to 1 million citizens in the defense of the state. The reconstruction of the destroyed Ukrainian infrastructure will be supported by European partners, and a legislative framework is being developed to attract Russian froze assets for the reconstruction of Ukraine in the European Union. After Lysychansk to Alaska, Russia convinces others of the might of their army, but takes operational pauses and suffers from HIMARS systems. So again, those HIMARS missile systems absolutely wreaking havoc on this Russian ammo, on the Russian ammo depots, those Russian weapons caches, etc. Again, I've talked about this over the past week here. Having those HIMARS multiple launch rocket systems has been a game changer for Ukraine. They're now able to reach out farther. They're able to hit these Russian ammo depots, these Russian weapon caches, which extremely hinders Russia's ability to continue this grinding war of attrition, this grinding assault on Ukrainian territory. Our next post here again comes from Kayuka. This comes from Newsweek.com. Talks about, in fact, let's switch over to our pointer screen here so we can actually see. That'd probably be smart, eh? Again, this talks about, and it's wanting to load an ad up here. So let's go ahead and mute the site there. Russians in panic over strikes by U.S.-supplied HIMARS. So again, just to reiterate how effective these HIMARS systems are against. In fact, down here you can see a video of that explosion, which I was talking about earlier, which launched debris everywhere, and some of that is munitions that are cooking off as well. Absolutely massive explosion there at that Russian ammo depot near Kherson. American-made M142 high-mobility artillery rocket systems, also known as HIMARS, are shredding Russian troop positions and logistics hubs with little resistance, sowing terror among the occupying forces, a front-line Ukrainian governor has told Newsweek. Speaking from close to the front line in Ukraine's war-torn East, Luhansk's governor, Serhiy Haidai, said the invaders are in, quote, panic mode as the long-range guided heavy artillery picks off high-value targets and degrades Russia's fighting abilities while Ukraine plans counter-attacks. Quote, as the whole world has seen over the past week or so, we have been able to inflict massive damage to their missile defense systems and ammunition storage facilities deep behind enemy lines, Haidai explained. This, he said, was largely down to the variety of weapons we have recently received from the West, and when we have sufficient amounts of such weaponry, we will be able to carry out further counter-attacks. So again, those HIMARS rocket systems, absolutely 100% effective, 110% effective against a lot of these Russian forward ammo depots, these forward operational command posts. And I guarantee we're going to continue to see this activity over the coming weeks. Our next post here, again, comes from Kayuka. This also comes from Flash on Twitter here, this unverified Twitter source. This shows footage of a powerful explosions in Zaporizhzhia after shelling by the Russians this afternoon. A video from subscribers shows here, and we'll go ahead and take a look at that. I'm gonna make sure to put the volume up here so you guys can see. And you can hear the explosion, the blast wave there coming from that explosion. So you can, again, see a footage of a powerful explosion in Zaporizhzhia after shelling by the Russians this afternoon. Again, this was posted at 1:02 p.m. my time, so about 7 hours ago this occurred. Thank you, Kayuka, for that. Another post coming here from Kayuka. This comes from Newsweek. It's talking about West plans to attack Russia. Putin ally Lukashenko says. So again, that's President of Belarus there, Lukashenko. I'll read you a little bit from this article here. It says here, Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko claimed on Tuesday that the West is planning to attack Russia amid the country's invasion of Ukraine. During a ceremony honoring military graduates and senior officers, Lukashenko said he and Russian President Vladimir Putin, quote, discussed this in detail. On Monday, when the Kremlin said the pair met to talk about strengthening of Russian-Belarusian relations, among other issues. Strategic plans for an attack against Russia are being developed, the Putin ally had said. Belarusian news outlet Beltia reported, and the main direction of the strike, history repeats itself, is through Ukraine and through Belarus. Lukashenko didn't elaborate on his claims. Western nations have not said that they are preparing to attack Russia amid Putin's attack on neighboring Ukraine. So again, interesting article there coming from Newsweek. I've often talked about the lack of Belarusian involvement here. I expected early on that Belarusian forces would get directly involved. However, it seems to have not been the case yet. However, I believe those Belarusian forces are still being held on the back burner, possibly to be used further down the road when need be. Another post here coming from Kayuka. This also is from Newsweek here. It talks about Russian official accidentally reveals missiles being used in Ukraine. On screen here, you're actually seeing some footage after a missile strike in Kramatorsk on July 7th, which is interesting. Here you can see some of the missile impact craters there. Aftermath of deliberate missile strike on Ukrainian civilians occurred there. Again, this was in Kramatorsk. I'll read you a little bit from this article here. Igor Girkin, a former Russian military leader, appeared to accidentally reveal that Russia is using Tochka-U missiles in Vladimir Putin's war, weeks after the Kremlin denied that weapons are being deployed by Russian forces. The Ukrainians destroyed on air defense base near Luhansk. Girkin, who uses the last name Stralikov on social media, said in a post on his Telegram channel he took aim at the Russian military by saying that Russia failed to cover up Tochka-U launchers. There are unique shots of how, in broad daylight, without the slightest disguise, a train with Tochka-U equipment is moving south in the Tula region, he wrote, referring to footage that circulated on social media Tuesday. A quote saying, "I understand that camouflaging tanks and infantry fighting vehicles, if there are absolutely no covers and even mask nets at the disposal of the Russian Federation Ministry of Defense, is, after all, not so necessary, but missile systems, even obsolete but completely ready, are the primary target for the enemy," Girkin wrote, pointing out the failures of the Russian command. You can see here a picture here of some debris here left behind from, I believe this is a Russian missile system there. Again, thank you to Kayuka for sending that over. Our next post here comes from Unstinkable. He add a comment here. He added in a little bit of comments here for some context. It says 10:30 p.m. plus local time. It seems the past week around the same time every night HIMARS strikes are going on. HIMARS o'clock is a real thing, he says in that post. Let's go ahead and we'll take a look at a few of these examples here, which Unstinkable has sent over. Our first comes from Special Kherson Cat. Unverified Twitter source says local residents in Nova Hakhovka report explosions now reportedly at the Sokol factory, and you can see a picture here on screen of what looks to be fire burning at that factory. We'll then switch over here to Jay in Kiev, another unverified source here that has a video for us. Go take a look at that. It says the sun goes down and HIMARS goes on the hunt. Another big Russian ammo depot going up now in Nova Hakhovka. Again, this came at around 3:44 p.m. my time, Eastern, from today. So again, this shows another Russian ammunition depot near Nova Hakhovka being targeted by that HIMARS missile system.
А чё, ходуном ходит, подожди.
Да, балкон ходуном ходит. Я себе.
Yeah, absolutely devastating blow there to that ammunition depot. You can see all that. What we're looking at here are munitions cooking off from the initial strike. Now, one good way to tell when you're having munitions cook off, and I've noticed this same pattern, not just for like you'll see a Russian tank get hit, and it looks very similar. You see what looks like embers flying up from the explosion. A lot of that is munitions that are being cooked off and being sent every which way. You'll notice here in a second when this bigger explosion occurs here. So you can see stuff flying out from the explosion there. Very indicative of a ammunition cache being hit. Again, thank you to Unstinkable for sending over that post in the Discord server. Our last post this evening comes from Kayuka. This comes from an unverified Twitter source that we've actually resorted to a few times here. This says more footage from Horolivka, from strikes that were believed to have occurred there earlier today. Let's take a look. You can see in the distance there some smoke rising. You can even hear the shockwaves from the blasts reaching the cameraman here. Oh, you can actually see some of the strikes landing here on the ground. Looks to be shelling, possibly incoming MLRS fire. see multiple impacts there in Horalivka from, I believe this was probably Russian shelling, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that. That about concludes our community aggregated reporting. We're now going to switch over to our live UA map to take a look at some of our open source reports and get everybody caught up on the individual events that have been occurring over the past about 12 hours or so. Again, big shout out to everybody that posted in the Situation Room and contributed to tonight's reports. Especially big shout out, big pat on the back to our power posters, Kayuka and Unstinkable. Both have been absolutely killing it in the Situation Room over there, bringing us those reports. Let's go ahead and refresh our live UA map, as I believe we're lagged behind a little bit here. Yep, we are. So it looks like we're going to be bringing you guys reports from about the past 20 hours or so instead of the past 12 hours as we usually bring you. Our first post here comes from 20 hours ago. It talks about that missile strike which occurred in Kramatorsk, as you see here on the map where that was located. We have a video for you guys here coming from that strike. This is actually one of the cameras we have, I believe. This is actually one of our cameras we have on our live 24/7 cam stream. I recognize the skyline here very much so. You can see just a massive explosion there occurring from that missile strike again in Kramatorsk. Play that one more time for you guys there. You can see the absolutely just a devastating explosion there from that missile strike that occurred in Kramatorsk. Next post here comes from 18 hours ago. It talks about a hit at Narkrosova 6A in Yasta Nevada. Again, you can see where that is located here. This is on Russian-held territory, so keep that in mind here. And you can see a picture on screen, a few pictures actually, of some of the damaged infrastructure as a result of that Ukrainian strike on Russian separatist-held territory. This occurred again in Donetsk Oblast. 17 hours ago here, death toll at Chasiv Yar increased to 46. We now know that has increased to 47. Okay, so again, in the past, since that 17-hour mark, we have received a report of another death included onto that tally. You can see some pictures there of these brave rescue workers combing through the rubble here, looking for remains of some of the deceased. 15 hours ago here at Siversk direction, Russian army shelled the Vokivka of Sumy region with mortars. Again, this came from our morning report from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. You can see where that was located here on territory which has been taken back by Ukrainian forces. So again, everything shaded in blue is territory that the Ukrainian forces have managed to take back. Another report from our morning report here at Kharkiv direction. The Russian army shelled Soznivka, Dmitrivka, and a few other regions there you could see located on the map there. All shaded in yellow is where these strikes have occurred. Moving on with those, some more reports from that morning report here. It says Ukrainian military repelled Russian army assaults of Dovhenki and Dolnya. Again, you can see on the map here where those Ukrainian forces repelled those Russian assaults on the map there. Not too far from Sloviansk. And one thing I should mention here is that I believe, Dolnya here is that town that, again, is slated to be taken by the Russian forces later this week. So we're keeping a close eye on this region here as those Russian forces move down from the north to take those smaller towns there. 15 hours ago at Kramatorsk direction, Russian army shelled quite a few different areas, different territories here. Russian aviation conducted airstrikes near Verkhonohokosamansky. Again, a pretty big mouthful there, but you can see here on the map just how many of those strikes occurred along this confrontation line, along this conflict line over the past 15 hours or so. Speaking of which, at Bakhmut direction, we have more strikes which occurred there. You can see all of them listed on the map here. We have more listed here as we move down our eastern front line here to the Donetsk region. You have Advivka and many other strikes there. These are all Russian aviation conducted airstrikes which occurred here in this cluster. 15 hours ago at Pivdeni Bu direction, Russian army shelled quite a few different territories here. You can see located in Ukrainian recaptured territories. You see shaded in blue here. So again, Russians they hold Kherson at this time, but they are still bombarding very heavily these areas right up to Mykolaiv, as you can see there in shaded in blue is again the Ukrainian held territory. 14 hours ago, negotiations on the unblocking of those grain exports, as reported on earlier tonight, are in the final phase, says Ukrainian Foreign Minister Kuleba. Again, that report came 14 hours ago. We expect to have more information on those talks for tomorrow's report. 14 hours ago, at least 5 civilians were killed as a result of 28 MLRS strikes in the Mykolaiv region, as you can see here on the map. Again, the clusters of strikes that we reported about a few minutes ago, again, that is the civilian kill count from those strikes that we see there. Finishing out our open source reports here, it says 12 hours ago, quadrilateral negotiations between the export of Ukrainian grain began in Istanbul with the participation of delegations of Ukraine, Turkey, the UN, and Russia. Again, I don't expect very much progress to come of those talks, but I hope that they're able to come to some kind of agreement for the sake of those starving and for those that are currently in the midst of a growing food crisis in the Middle East and Africa. A lot of those countries were highly dependent on those grain exports from Russia. Of course, us in the States, we are also feeling an impact from those from the lack of those grain exports as well. Go ahead and just give a quick refresh here. We don't have our nightly round of siren reports that usually come in around this time. It looks like live viewing map is a little lagged behind tonight. So again, with tomorrow's stream, I might go through and we might cover some of the reports that have happened from our 12-hour mark here, current to the present time. We'll get everybody caught back up. So again, due to tonight's buffering issues with the stream, we won't be able to do our Q&A with the live chat, but we'll make up for it with tomorrow's stream. We'll get our gas prices round up as usual, and we'll have a little bit of an extended Q&A. For everybody that wasn't able to receive the stream tonight, we'll be uploading it right to the YouTube channel after the stream is done live here at youtube.com/Nemico Network. So if you want to go watch it in full, you can go ahead and check it out on the video when that's uploaded. I'll try to get that going now so that it can be uploaded within the next hour or two here, so that everybody can catch tonight's report. Reminder to everybody: we also uploaded day 138 and 139's reports. So that's Monday's report and Tuesday's report. They're now available on the YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Nemico Network. I highly recommend you guys go watch day 138. It gives a nice recap of the past week or so of events and gets everybody caught back up to speed. So again, if you want to get kind of caught up, I highly recommend going and watching day 138 and day 139 before you watch day 140's report, if you haven't already, of course. If you are looking for any of the sources or any of the links to anything, you can find that in the description below. If you can't find it there, you can always find it over on the Discord server at discord.gg/Nemico. Always welcome to pick up your Intel Analyst rank and join in on the contribution to our community aggregated reporting, which is found over in the Situation Room channel. Oh, actually, just now, it refreshed here. Looks like we did have our air raid sirens, or actually it showed up on the map just for a second there and then went away. But it does look like our air raid sirens are coming through. If any are happening now as I've been giving this report, we will see them come into the live chats because we do get those alarms posted into there as they occur. Looks like a few of you have caught up to the current time here on the live chats. Again, big shout out to everybody: Catlin Burr, Kender, all you guys, Katie Horton, Epi Moo, Unstinkable, Miss Tiger Eye, Benny Hill, Pocket Frog, Katie Horton. To all you guys who tuned in tonight, thank you so much for stopping by. If you haven't already, hit that like button and share this stream. The best way to get this information out to more people. It's very important that we keep people informed on what's going on here in Europe on this this ongoing and very bloody conflict, which again is now on day 140. Okay, we are over 5 months into this ongoing conflict. It's looking like it's going to continue on, so we will continue to be bringing you guys the news and the updates as they come in. A lot of new content coming at you guys down the pipeline in the coming days and weeks here. Pretty pumped for that. So stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed because that's the best way to get notified when new videos and streams go live. Make sure you hit that notification bell and hit the all button. Best way to get notified for everything when we upload that content. New report every night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's around 3 a.m. Ukraine time. So if you happen not to get a notification, you can always make sure to check back here around that time for when we are going live. I think that is about it and about covers it. I will be ending this stream, but shortly after, I will be launching the live cam stream. So that'll be the 24/7 Ukraine data/live cameras stream will be back up after this. I just want to make sure that the buffering issues are taken care of for you guys. So I'll be taking a look into that, as well as uploading tonight's report to the YouTube channel so you guys can have a watch over that in full. Again, guys, thank you so much for stopping by tonight. Until next time, guys, you have been watching Nemico Network.
Something that will change our daily lives, that will change history, that will change history, that will change history. That will be the most beautiful day.